A very good evening to everyone. I am Dr. Meena Lopez, Director of Medical Affairs at Cipla Limited. It is indeed my pleasure to welcome all of you on behalf of Cipla to this very special panel discussion webinar today. We do know that nebulized medications have an important role to play in both acute and chronic respiratory conditions in select populations. However, the COVID pandemic has raised several concerns and fears with respect to the use of nebulization. Does nebulization as an aerosol generating procedure increase the risk of the transmission of the COVID virus? If not, are there patient profiles who may be safely continued nebulization? What is the role of nebulization at home? And what is its role in the hospital during this COVID pandemic? Are there special precautions to be followed while performing the nebulization procedure? We shall get answers on all these pertinent questions in today's panel discussion on the guidance on nebulization, which is a special initiative. Cipla is very pleased to partner with the Chest Council of India in this initiative to enable the dissemination of this vital information to the medical community. I have the privilege of introducing the founder, chairman, trustee of the Chest Council of India, Dr. N.H. Krishna. He is a practicing pulmonologist in Karnataka as well as a philanthropist. He is a fellow of the International Medical Academy of Respiratory Diseases and the American College of Chest Physicians. He is also a member of the ATI. He has an ardent hunger for medical knowledge, and this led him to attend various national and international conferences, which he does so even today. And it was during this process that he made friends with like-minded pulmonologists across India. With each passing seminar, these friendships grew stronger, and his desire to stay more frequently in touch with these doctors led to the birth of a WhatsApp Chest Council of India group in 2014. This group is dedicated 24/7 to pulmonary medicine and has steadily increased in numbers, and today has crossed 3,000 pulmonologists in India or pulmonologists of Indian origin. In 2017, due to rising demands, the CCI transformed from a WhatsApp group to a registered society and organized their first conference at Bengaluru. With that introduction, I would like to invite Dr. Krishna to say a few words.
Thank you. It was quite a touching introduction. Thank you, Dr. Meena Lopez. Well, Chest Council of India, few people tell that CCA is because of me, but I think it's the other way around. Whatever I am today, it's because of CCA and the people like you who are inside CCI. So Chest Council of India always believes in dissemination of knowledge around the clock to all the pulmonologists. See, we meet the entire India, a tiny place as like a mobile. So everyone could interact with any other, even with the stalwarts also, the youngsters could interact any day. We removed that complete inhibition barrier wherein people could not interact with each other. I understand there are plenty of organizations across the globe, but every person is not in touch with the other daily on routine basis, which CCA made to happen. I would like to completely thank everyone who got involved, supported. See, you can't walk alone, you can't do anything alone without the support of people. So basically, I thank everyone in CCI because of whom this could happen. Now, at the outset, I profoundly thank, regarding today's event, Indian Chest Society. So Indian Chest Society have made guidance for nebulization, and this has been published even in Lung India journal. So this guidance regarding nebulization was very important during the current pandemic, because more than what it is, I don't know, but let me tell you my views. It was made such a frightening thing regarding nebulization in this current pandemic that it was more an exaggerated thing than what it was. An aerosol generating procedure, maybe it is, whatever. But Indian Chest Society, as always, the leader in Indian pulmonology. We at CCI completely respect Indian Chest Society, and we honor them always. We provide huge respect to them because it is the first pulmo body that came into existence in India, and ICS, especially all the people in ICS, with special reference to Dr. Rajesh Swarnakar, my very dear friend, who is the secretary of ICS. ICS has joined hand with CCI many times. Dr. Rajesh Swarnakar and Indian Society, CCI is here to learn from you. You guys are the university and we are the kindergarten. So let us go ahead together. Let us go ahead together for a good cause. Let us go ahead together for something with which the society, the doctors, the patients, everyone gets benefited. Thank you, Cipla, for this wonderful initiative that you planned. After with ICS, you planned with CCI. So it is very understanding that the interest behind this was more people get benefited with this and more people get the dissemination of the knowledge. I'm very sure nebulization will be back, will be back, will be back the way it is. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Krishna. I also have the privilege and honor of introducing our speaker and moderator for today's session, Dr. Rajesh Swarnakar. His talk will throw light on the key aspects of the guidance that has been published in Lung India, which is on nebulization. His talk will be followed by a panel discussion on the topic. And joining him is a very elite group of panelists today, which comprises of Dr. Radha Munje, Dr. Neeraj Gupta, Dr. Amita Nene, and Dr. Agam Vora. Dr. Rajesh Swarnakar is the National Secretary of the Indian Society. He is also the Director and the Chief Consultant Pulmonologist at the Department of Respiratory, Critical Care and Sleep Medicine of Getwell Hospital and Research Institute, Nagpur. He is also the Principal of the Academy of Ethical Clinical Research Training, which is involved in imparting training on clinical research methodologies. He has been the Principal Investigator for many research projects in asthma and COPD, and he has many research papers to his credit in peer-reviewed journals. With that, I would like to welcome Dr. Swarnakar to first deliver a short talk on the key aspects of the guidance on nebulization and then take the panel discussion forward. Over to Dr. Swarnakar.
Thank you, Dr. Meena and my friend Dr. Krishna for a warm welcome. I also welcome our audience who are tuned in for this webinar and of course looking for some guidance of nebulization in this pandemic. So what we are going to do in another 1 hour or so is that we have a primer lecture, primer talk, followed by a warm and I think interactive panel discussion. And I'm so glad that we have got a very illustrious panel this evening to dwell on this topic. You already know Dr. N.H. Krishna, who is the founder, chairman and trustee of Chest Council of India, and I thank him heartedly for giving me this opportunity to moderate this session on nebulization in the COVID pandemic. He's a member of ATS, BTS, ERS, and even ICS, and is an honorary member of India in the committee of GINA's World Asthma Day. Welcome, Dr. Krishna. Another illustrious panelist is Dr. Radha Munje, who is a professor and head Department of Pulmonary Medicine at IGMC Nagpur. She also happens to be my teacher. She's also the president Vidarbha Chest Association, has been a recipient of Dr. S.N. Tripathi Oration faculty at NAPCON, NESCON, and many conference. She's chairman of Ethics Committee in GMC, AIMS Nagpur, and has been the member of governing body of ICS since 2 years. Another panelist, and I'm happy to have Dr. Neeraj Gupta, who's a professor and head Department of Pulmonology in Jawaharlal Nehru Medical College, Ajmer. He has been also instrument in preparing this document on nebulization, which we are going to discuss today. He is the chairman, State Task Force RNTCP, State of Rajasthan, and has been an honorable member of governing body of Indian Chess Society, besides being Secretary State Chapter of Indian Chess Society Rajasthan, and founder president of Ajmer Chess Society. Welcome, Dr. Neeraj. Another panelist is Dr. Amita Nene, whom we all know very well. She is a prolific orator and HOD Pulmonology of Bombay Hospital, Mumbai. She's head of the department there. She's trained at Cleveland Clinic, Ohio, where she specializes in interventional bronchoscopy and sleep medicine. Welcome, Dr. Amita, in this panel discussion. And my friend, Dr. Agam Vora, I welcome you to this panel discussion on guidance on nebulization. He's an assistant editor, Journal of Association of Physicians of India. He's an editorial board member of Chest India and trustee Malad Medical Association. Welcome, Agam. So before we really go into an interactive and maybe stimulating panel discussion, what I want to do is to have a primer sort of talk on this basic nebulization, after which we can kickstart the question answer session and also panel discussion. So why there was need of guidance of basically nebulization in this pandemic? So we know that we chest physicians know that nebulized medications are frequently used for the management of acute asthma, for COPD exacerbation, and home maintenance treatment for respiratory diseases like COPD, bronchiectasis in our part of the country, where we ask the patient to take the drugs on a regular basis at their home. And this is a no-brainer that yes, the start of panic, we did panic when the start of the pandemic because it had raised some concerns on the use of nebulization among we practicing physicians, as there were fears about it causing transmission of infection. Hence, Indian Chess Society felt that there has to be a document to guide this important procedure in our practice. And we sieved through the various evidence available up to date, and again revisited this fear of basic nebulization. And ultimately, we formed a task force of ICS members, experts, and they came out with a document which is intended to provide guidance to the physician on use of nebulization in the current pandemic based on current evidence and understanding till date. So this document, because of its importance, was kindly published by the editor of Lung India ahead of print, and it is available online, was published just last month, and it is available free to download for all of you from the official website of Lung India. So what has changed the practice of nebulization and fear of nebulization in this pandemic is understanding of basic knowledge about how this nebulization works. So we come to this concept of fugitive emissions. Fugitive means to escape. So fugitive emissions basically can be defined as aerosol that comes out from the aerosol device when the patient exhales. So they escape this nebulization process and are emitted in the environment. So these aerosol which comes out contains particle size of these emissions which range from 0.8 to 1.4 micrometer. And approximately about 50% of the aerosol produced during aerosolization is fugitive aerosol, which remains suspended in the environment maybe for several hours. And this actually fugitive emissions and this aerosolization fumes depend on which device has been used for nebulization, which patient interface has been used for this nebulization, and the type of patient characteristic who's taking this nebulization, and the flow rate, which are the factors which affect this fugitive emissions. And even though aerosol therapy is the mainstay to treat pulmonary disease at healthcare and home settings, there is a possibility for generating fugitive emissions during therapy in the form of droplets and aerosols that may be source of respiratory pathogens. And this is true that they may cause basically transmission of pathogens. That's the fear. And we are there to guide you on this of nebulization practice in this webinar. So when we say fugitive emissions, it consists of two components. These are bioaerosols and also medical aerosols. So this fumes does not entirely contain, virus containing droplets or something, but what are bioaerosols? Are those aerosols or particulate matter of animal, plant, or microbial origin, which are generated by patients in humans, and transmission of COVID-19 may occur by droplets generated as bioaerosols. While the other component, which is almost 50% of this emission from the nebulization, are actually medical aerosols, which are produced by aerosol devices, and they are not inhaled by the patient, but it does escape into the environment, into the surrounding atmosphere. And these are the ones they are produced by aerosol generating medical procedures. So now that we are mentioning, let's visit what is aerosol generating procedures as such. And this is from the CDC guidance website, which has categorized the following procedures to be considered as aerosol generating procedures due to the creation of uncontrolled respiratory secretions. And in the list is open suctioning of airway secretions, sputum induction, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, endotracheal intubation and extubation, non-invasive positive pressure ventilation, bronchoscopy, and bagging or manual ventilation that we do at the bedside in ICU or emergency procedure. And just note that in this list, there is no mention of nebulization, but it does mention that there are limited data on whether other procedures may generate infectious aerosols and represent a transmission risk. And this national NHS, which is a public health authority in UK, actually tells on the website that certain other procedures or equipment may generate an aerosol from material other than patient secretions, but are not considered to represent a significant infectious risk for COVID-19. And in this category, administration of humidified oxygen, administration of antox, or medication via nebulization finds the mention. So although there are various aerosol generating procedures, among which nebulization is included, but it is categorized as low to medium risk. And as per the CDC, as we saw, as per the CDC recommendation, there is a limited evidence that nebulization is an aerosol generating procedures. But however, a lower or medium risk, we should find ways and means to actually mitigate this, however small risk, which is there and which is in fact there when we do the nebulization. And these various ways and means, among them is use of filters during nebulization, and aerosol generated with nebulizers can carry the virus during exhalation and get transmitted to the hospital environment, patients and healthcare professionals. But if we use the filters placed in the nebulizer device, it has been found that 93% these filters are effective in sieving exhaled aerosol droplets from the patient's mouth, and thus can decrease the exposure of aerosol medication to the healthcare professionals up to 93%. Another thing is that we can use a high efficiency particulate air filters, HEPA filters that we usually do in OTs and ICUs with nebulizers, which might be the good option to use during actually nebulization to patients who are confirmed cases of COVID-19. But unfortunately, these HEPA filters are bulky and they necessitate the use of adapters to be attached to the nebulizers, which may sometimes become a bit problematic being bulky. But these aerosol drug delivery to patients dependent on ventilators can be transmitted to the ambient environment, and therefore here the use of HEPA filters along with the ventilator will prevent the transmission of infectious droplet nuclei. Another way of actually decreasing the risk of transmission during the nebulization is patient device interface. It's very important that when we use jet nebulizers, we usually use the face mask. But remember that use of face mask is not recommended for aerosol therapy in the treatment of COVID-19 patients, because use of face mask can spew larger secretions in the environment and hence are not recommended. But when we use our usual jet nebulizers, it is recommended that you use mouthpiece and filters or one-way valves which should be attached to the nebulizer to avoid this fugitive emissions during the aerosol therapy. Another is use of mesh nebulizer with a mouthpiece in confirmed patient of COVID-19 when you wish to give nebulization to them. It is an option where filters should be added to the other end of mouthpiece to prevent the release of aerosol to the environment. Let's see what are the preference of nebulization nebulizer type, which nebulizer to be used. I've already mentioned in brief that mesh nebulizers should be preferred over jet nebulizer for COVID-19 patients because the medication reservoir is isolated from the breathing circuit, which eliminates the nebulization of contaminated fluid. This is a picture of a small, very handy mesh nebulizer. Please ignore the face mask because what I've just propagated is to use a mouthpiece. And this mesh nebulizers, another advantage is that they can stay in line for up to 28 days, and hence we don't need to break the circuit for giving nebulization and then attaching it again. And it permits adding medication without requiring the ventilator circuit to be broken. Plus they are quite efficient, so they can nebulize the same amount of nebulization fluid in quicker time, and hence the exposure also decreases. So they actually provide an efficient drug delivery with the shortest nebulization time as compared to jet nebulizers, and should be preferred during this pandemic. So patients who can continue with home nebulization in the current pandemic, and these patients have been given nebulization because of certain problems they face when using inhalers. So these are the patients with severe disease and those who are unable to use other inhaler devices. They are old people with arthritis that makes it difficult to use an inhaler, to actuate the inhaler, to press the inhaler, and people who have trouble using or cannot handle an inhaler device alone, hence they need the assistance, and people who require medicines that are only accessible as nebulizer solution or suspensions. For example, in the patients of bronchiectasis whose actually bronchus is colonized by some bacteria like Pseudomonas, you need to give tobramycin, you need to give colistin, you need to give sometimes mucolytics during nebulization, which are not available in the inhaler form. So it is mandatory and also become necessary to give these medicine in the form of nebulization only. So what are the recommendations for home nebulization for a confirmed case of COVID-19 patients? So these patients whom you have given nebulization but now has turned COVID-19, you have to go for precautions to make them prevent this risk of transmission to other family members. So first of all, the patient must have their full supply of medication at home, at least 30-day supply, to reduce the need for leaving home. They also must be locked down. They can't go out, and if they go out, then they can spread the infection. So they should have sufficient supply at home to last. This we are quite used to now is for hand hygiene with the alcohol. This also is true for even non-pandemic times, that nebulization accessories should be clean and dry before nebulization. Patient with COVID-19 or suspected to have COVID-19 with indicative symptoms should perform nebulization in a separate, well-ventilated room such as open area, balcony or terrace, because it has been found that risk of transmission of virus is least in the open spaces. If you can open doors and windows to allow maximum ventilation so that risk of airborne contagion is much lower. If there is central air conditioning in the room during nebulization, it should be avoided because this actually fugitive emissions can be transmitted to other rooms through the same pipings. To maintain a safe distance, we are quite used to it now. We have been repeating this. Social distancing should be practiced even at home when there is a patient of COVID in your home. The caregiver should not someone at a higher risk of COVID-19. So if suppose he wants to assess this patient, then it should be noted that they don't have risk factors for various risk factors for COVID-19. These persons should avoid assisting these patients and standing too close to the patient who is isolated in his own home. If suppose a caretaker or family member does require to share space or assist him, the room should have good airflow. I think they should wear mask, which we always advocate. And if while nebulization, if suppose a caregiver doesn't require an assistance, you can also see that the doors are closed. And this is a strict no-no, as is understandable that nebulizers should not be shared between the family members. Now, after the nebulization, what are the sanitization and hygiene practices once this patient has finished the nebulization? So the room should be left vacant with the door closed for 30 minutes post nebulization after the patient has left the room. The nebulizer accessories should be cleaned and disinfected using liquid hospital grade disinfectant such as propanol or hydrogen peroxide, which we advocate for all the spaces. Common areas like doorknobs, bed rails, tabletops, light switches, and all those things should be cleaned and disinfected. Hospital grade cleaning and disinfecting agents are recommended for all horizontal and frequently touched spaces. 70% alcohol is the one that is preferred, that we all know, or also a cheaper option is sodium hypochlorite to the least like 0.5%, which can be used for disinfecting surfaces, which we all know by now. So what are the recommendations for non-COVID patients? They should not be treated. So what had happened during the start of pandemic, that we started treating each and every patient as a suspect COVID patients, and then we started, fearing whether they will transmit. So what are the recommendations for non-COVID patients who don't have symptoms of indicative of COVID-19? Those who don't have infection associated risks that prevent the use of a nebulizer, they can take this nebulization. Asthmatic patients who actually require nebulization who have been given nebulization because of some problems they have of using nebulizers with no symptoms or a confirmed diagnosis of COVID-19 should continue essential nebulized medication for their treatment as recommended by their physicians when they have been found to be non-COVID. Let's also discuss the ways and means to mitigate or lower or decrease the risk of nebulization in hospital setup. So what are the strategies for in-hospital nebulization when we use them in patients? So healthcare workers should observe complete precautions, namely face mask, eye protection, gloves, and gown. And this is what we do in nowadays in our ICU. We wear PPE and we use of N95 mask, shields, eye protection, and everything. Maintain a safe distance, possibly outside the door upon the setup of a nebulizer. Limit the time of healthcare professional in the room without compromising patient care. In case filters are used, ensure that the filters are removed well in time after nebulization and replace it with a fresh one in case there is a surge in expiratory resistance. So this is very important that you remove the filters and do not forget to be there in line, because this will cause problem in the patient circuit and also in providing the mechanical ventilation to him. Close patient's door while providing nebulizer treatment. A proper disposable of used disposal of used equipment is very important, and all these accessories should be disposable. They should be thrown, and it should be disposed of in a proper manner as advised of all these medical hazard accessories. So a fresh mask or mouthpiece and tubing should be preferred for each nebulization treatment. And a patient did not be transferred to higher level facilities just for the need of nebulization treatment, because it was believed that in the initial part of the pandemic that nebulization should be given in anti-infective isolation rooms or some negative pressure rooms, and we had thought that if suppose a patient requires nebulization, then he should be shifted to a higher center which has this facility, but it is not at all required like that. So what are the nebulization strategies in COVID-19 intensive care? That surgical mask should be placed on the face of the infected patients during aerosol drug delivery if patient is on HFNO therapy, because again this can actually produce the aerosols, infective aerosols in the atmosphere around. Mesh nebulizers of course should be used. These are the ideal nebulizers to be used in the ICU in critical patients with COVID-19 receiving ventilator support. Strictly no is use of, and this was advocated before but now not recommended, of use of jet nebulizer or PMDIs. It should be avoided for any aerosol delivery to ventilator dependent patients with COVID-19. Mesh nebulizers should be placed prior to the humidifier to improve the efficiency of the treatment and to reduce retrograde contamination from the patient. Very important. We use HEPA filters to the expiratory limb of the ventilator to reduce secondhand aerosol exposure and to prevent the transmission of infectious droplet nuclei. The aerosol therapy should not be combined with percussive pulmonary clearance techniques such as chest physiotherapy and suctioning. And as advocated, an inline or closed system suction catheters should be used in intubated patients. Healthcare workers, and we do should wear PPE, and hands should be cleaned, gloved actually, and if not gloved, then at least clean the hand with soap and water or an alcohol-based hand sanitizer before and after giving this nebulization. And it is very imperative to emphasize that non-essential persons should leave the room during nebulization, no unnecessary crowding inside the room, and not to re-enter the room for about 2 to 3 hours following nebulization. Equipment should be disinfected with 70% alcohol or hydrogen peroxide as told before. So just to summarize, I would say that administration of nebulization represents a low risk of infection, and there is limited evidence of nebulization being an aerosol generating procedure. Mouthpiece is the preferred patient interface or face mask during nebulization. Filters placed on the exhalation port of mouthpiece leads to lowest concentration of fugitive aerosols and hence decreases secondhand exposure of aerosol medications to healthcare professionals. Mesh nebulizers are to be preferred over our usual jet nebulizers as it eliminates the nebulization contamination fluid because of its efficiency and short nebulization time required. Home nebulization should be considered as part of maintenance nebulization for patients with obstructive airway diseases. Nebulization at home should be performed with all safety precautions such as using a clean nebulizer in a room with good ventilation, disinfecting the nebulizer after every use, and not sharing the nebulizer with other family members. Nebulization in hospital settings should be performed by a healthcare professional with complete precautions like use of face mask, eye protection, gloves, gown, and maintaining a safe distance of 6 feet or greater. Nebulization in ICU should be performed with additional safety measures such as, of course, using anti-infective isolation rooms or negative pressure rooms, but are not actually necessary for it. And that's all that I want to drive home these key messages. Thank you for your patient listening. Thank you very much. Anti-infective isolation rooms or negative pressure rooms, but are not actually necessary for it.
Hello,
and
so
that's all that
I just
want
welcome
to
you
drive
again
home these
in this
key messages.
panel discussion.
Thank you for your patient
And
listening.
let's
Thank you very
basically
much.
kickstart some interactive discussion. And what I would like to actually ask all the panelists as a first question or first discussion on this topic is how did they take this issue of nebulization when it just started? So I'll tell my experience. In fact, that when it started, we haven't really stopped doing of nebulization, and until we had some evidence that of course this is not entirely very risky situation. So I'd like to begin by just asking Dr. Krishna, how was the experience of this nebulization, and how did you take this issue of nebulization, I think, since the start of pandemic?
Hello, Dr. Rajesh. That was
Yes.
a very good presentation. Appreciate
Thank
that
you.
presentation.
Thank you.
Dr. Rajesh, actually what happens is when you interact with your healthcare professional, especially I mean doctors, pulmonologists across. So when you are in any WhatsApp group, may not be CCA alone, in any group as such. So when the pandemic got initiated, the discussions got initiated regarding the nebulization, and of course regarding the spirometer. So when people started considering at a larger scale, or were discussing in a larger scale, that nebulization could transmit the pandemic. So initially we all did stop for a while. But later I myself understood that after a few months I understood that see, basically nebulizers are prescribed to those people who do not have a good inspiratory capacity. So they are already having other illnesses which require nebulization. They are unable to take a DPI or even MDI with spacer also. So we cannot deny them that they cannot take nebulization just because of this, but we should see with proper instructions, as you already covered in your presentation, that it shouldn't be transmitting, and we started recommending that mouthpiece, so that mask should be avoided, and we started to see to it that for example long-standing cases of COPD, bronchial asthma, or even bronchiectasis or anything like that. So slowly we came back to business. So this is my personal experience.
Amita, you are in basically a tertiary care hospital where these of nebulization you can't do really without actually nebulization in all the places in your hospital. So how did you manage that, and what were your fears, and how it has changed the practice now?
Yeah. First of all, it's a very, very important guideline that Indian Society has come up with in Young India, because this was really hour of the need, because a lot of people were really confused as to what to do. And as Dr. Krishna said, that we also had actually stopped using nebulizations initially because we were very, very scared. But now, after the guidelines have come and after a lot of information that is available, we also know that there are certain people who are on a ventilator, or certain people who got a severe attack of bronchospasm. Then we are using HEPA filters and giving the nebulizations. And we do have patients in a single room where we are actually closing the room, the healthcare worker goes out, etc. Yeah. That's what we are actually doing. But it was a wonderful talk given by you. Everything really nicely covered. Really a complete state-of-the-art talk. Thank you.
Thank you. So of course, we need to take some precautions and go ahead rather than really boycotting this important procedure in our practice. What about you, Agam? Dr. Agam? Is he there?
Yes.
Yes.
At the outset, Rajesh, I must thank you. That was fantastic presentation. You covered every aspect of nebulization therapy. And I take this opportunity to thank Chest Council of India and CIPLA for giving me this opportunity to be here with giants of respiratory field and share dais with you. It's my privilege. I must also thank you, Rajesh, for working very hard to come out with this guidelines and getting it published. Even more important, so that it reaches mass, and probably we all got confidence in starting nebulization therapy again. I also did stop nebulization initially. We did not know about COVID. We did not know how it spreads. There were a lot of myths, a lot of ideas about this disease. But soon we realized that if you don't treat your COPD patients or asthma exacerbations with nebulization, they cough even more. And when they cough even more, probably it leads to even more spread of disease. So with that thought, we started using nebulization therapy. Of course, all those patients who can be safely converted on MDI with spacer, we did that. But there is still a small cohort of patients who require nebulization therapy for sure. be it home nebulization, be it hospital nebulization, we continued that. And probably now with the help of this clarity that you have given with this paper, I think I'm more confident in using nebulization therapy. So I thank all of you there in designing this particular guideline. Amita, Dr. Gupta, Madam Munje, thank you very much for these guidelines.
Yeah, so it was a very important point that you have raised, that even if we don't get nebulization, he will cough more, and he will be much more riskier to others in this case. Hello.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hi. Hello.
Yes, you are audible.
Hi. Dr. Munji, madam is there because you are basically attached to a big, I think, medical college. So what were your practice? What were your instructions to your PGs about this at the start of the pandemic, and now how you have changed your practice?
Yes, Rajesh, at the outset, I endorse everybody's opinion and emotions that this has been a wonderful guiding document which has come from Indian Chess Society. You and Dr. Neeraj and on the whole team of Indian Chess Society, we are really grateful. And basically, we can ask people to refer to that whenever any issue arises and they have any doubts. That's one thing. Secondly, as you said, and like everybody, use of nebulizers was a strict no-no, because all other procedures which we know are aerosol generating, they could not be stopped immediately. Like, you need to intubate, you need to resuscitate a patient if he's a young one, do not have comorbidities. Even if patient has COVID, you cannot stop giving resuscitation. So these few things had to be continued. The only thing which had least risk, however, was most feared, because it's very common. See, nebulization is a common practice, and with so many guidelines on nebulization, we ask our staff, ourselves and residents to give it more frequently. Especially in ICUs, the frequency of nebulization is much more than it is at the home base. And so initially it was a strict no-no. We stopped using nebulization, switched over to PMDIs. Luckily, as Agam was saying, luckily at that time, we did not have so many cases of COPD and asthma coming for admission, especially in a government sector. We truly had all those SARIs or COVID suspects and then COVID confirmed cases in thousands actually. But slowly then, for all those patients who really need nebulization, we started giving them the benefits of nebulization, and the fear of spreading a disease, not only COVID but other infections, is now slowly waning away.
Thank you. And also, Dr. Professor Neeraj Gupta, I mean, you were the part of this document making. So how do you actually perceive this nebulization as also a bioaerosol generating procedures, whether it's really infectious, because we're all fearing that all of it which comes out of these fumes of nebulization is going to really be infectious. What are your perceptions on that, Dr. Gupta?
Yeah, congrats, Rajesh, for a wonderful talk. And once again, thanks CCI for giving this opportunity to be on this platform in a span of 3 days. So as far as nebulization as a bioaerosol is concerned, you have very clearly described 3 types of aerosols, that is fugitive, bioaerosol and medical aerosol. And of course, the fugitive aerosol is a combination of bioaerosol and medical aerosol. As far as my experience is concerned, for nebulization as a bioaerosol, I would like to divide my talk or my experience into 2 parts. One is home nebulization and another is that for hospitalized patients. Quite a good number of our patients, they are on home nebulization. Even they were on home nebulization before the onset of pandemic. So the concerns were there. They actually asked us whether they should continue nebulization or not, because these patients, they were never comfortable with MDIs and holding devices. So we asked them to continue with nebulization with the precautions which you have already described, that it should be done in a separate room. No attendants preferably should be available in the room when you are nebulizing. Sterilize the nebulizers, sterilize everything surroundings. That is very important. But we actually asked our patients who were already on home nebulization before the onset of pandemic. As far as nebulization practices in hospitals were concerned, we definitely stopped nebulizing indoor patients. There were quite a few patients who usually came to OPD for nebulization because they didn't have their own nebulization devices, being a government hospital. So we definitely stopped these practices, and still we actually inhibit these kind of practices in our OPDs for those patients who are coming for nebulization. And of course, for indoor patients, for quite a few good number of patients, it is necessary to nebulize, because now we are getting a good number of COPD, acute exacerbation of COPD and other obstructive lung diseases. And we ask our healthcare personnel to strictly follow the preventive guidelines, to use PPE kits, to use mask, N95 mask, to use face shield when they go into the wards where nebulization is being done for the patients. So this is all about my experience. As far as nebulization as a bioaerosol is concerned, as you have clearly mentioned, that fugitive emissions, they are a combination of bioaerosols and medical aerosols. No doubt, medical aerosols, they are not contaminated unless the reservoir is contaminated. But fugitive emissions being a combination of bioaerosols which are generated by patient itself, it is definitely there is a risk of spreading infection by the aerosols which are emitting out of the mouthpiece or out of the mask of the nebulizer. So there is definitely a risk, although it is not a well-defined aerosol generating procedure, but definitely there is certain risk of infection being spread with the help of nebulizer, or when the patient is being nebulized in a general ward or even a separate ward. So one should be careful enough when delivering a nebulizing therapy to the patient. And basically the risk of spreading infection with the help of nebulizer is because of the contamination by the secretions of the patient while they are coughing when they are being nebulized. So this is what I want to say about this bioaerosol as from nebulization.
Yes, of course, very well put, Dr. Neeraj. And also consider this as a pandemic. What is the perception of an ideal patient profile to whom actually we can give this home also nebulization going ahead from here?
So again, I would like to talk in two parts. Number one, home nebulization for COVID positive, and number two, home nebulization for COVID negative patients. As I have already mentioned, for COVID negative patient, we actually ask them to continue their nebulizing therapy, because if they are not nebulizing for the underlying lung disease, whether it be a COPD, whether it be a chronic bronchial asthma, whether it be a bronchiectasis or whatever it is, if they are not nebulizing themselves, their obstructive part of the disease will get worsened. They will have to visit hospitals, and they will be at increased risk of contracting infection when they come out of their home and when they visit the hospitals, when they are in queue for their treatment and when they are queue to get their medicines. So we have actually advised our patients who are on home nebulization to continue with their nebulization and to keep their stock of medicines ready at the home, because in case of lockdown, there was a lot of problem with the patient to getting their medicines in time. As far as home nebulization for COVID positive patients were concerned, as you have described very clearly, that these patients are actually at risk of spreading infection to the others in the family as far as home nebulization is concerned. So we have asked them to get nebulized in a separate room, when preferably no attendant should be available, or even if some assistance is necessary, maintain a distance of at least 2 meters so that the aerosols, they do not infect the accompanying person in the room. Then all precautions to protect themselves from contracting infection should be observed. The room should be separately and well ventilated. Preferably, if there is available some open space like a gallery or like a garage, the patient should go into that garage or a gallery and they should nebulize there to get their medicines in time.
And Dr. Agam, are you also facing some challenges, or you're just facing some challenges for prescribing long-term maintenance therapy in this pandemic? And what are the needs and gap that you think that must be addressed for patients on home nebulization?
So that's a great question. Actually, I'm not at liberty to have what Dr. Gupta was saying about some garages or open space. Actually, I live in Bombay where there are space constraints. When we spread both our ends, I think we can touch both walls here. So I'm practicing on the other side of Bombay. Amita is practicing on the posh side of Bombay. So she has the luxury of seeing patients with bigger houses and probably with a lot of open space. See, I would look at it this way. Home nebulization for me would fall into two categories. One is patient who's just had an exacerbation and is probably discharged from the hospital and is managed for a short time on nebulization. And there is another group of patients where people are not able to take their aerosols properly. They have cognitive issues. They forget about their medicines. They have tremors. They find it. They have arthritis, etc. They have hand-to-mouth coordinations, etc. They don't can follow the steps of taking a right kind of MDI. The techniques is at fault. So these are the two different category of patients where I prescribe home nebulization. And home nebulization will have advantage probably of compliance if there is somebody else in the house who could probably monitor patients taking nebulization. All I tell them is, if patient, as Neeraj Bhai said, if patient is COVID positive or COVID negative, probably there is no additional care required. You could manage it exactly the way you were managing. If there is no other patient who's COVID positive in the house, or patient himself is not COVID positive, I think he can follow the same guidelines or the same nebulization procedures that he was following pre-COVID era. If patient had COVID and if he's recovered from COVID, again, probably could follow the same guidelines. So if patient has finished their 14 days of quarantine, if you are in the habit of doing repeat COVID tests and if it is negative, though I don't recommend, but still a lot of doctors have a habit of asking for repeat COVID tests. And once you are convinced is negative, again, you can go back to the previous guidelines. The issue comes up in patients who are COVID positive and are on home management, or patient who is just discharged from hospital. We don't admit patients for 14 days or 20 days in the hospital. We admit them for 3 or 4 days or 5 days. They could still be positive. They could still be, spreading infection, but they don't require hospitalization. I'm not talking about isolation. I'm talking about hospitalization. And those patients, if they are in an isolation facility or at home, probably they will need to take whatever care precautions you said. So what I tell my patients' relatives is to prepare the nebulization in another room and give them the nebulizer. And they could use it in their small cabin. I tell them not to put on AC. If possible, they should keep their windows open and keep the door, house door closed, so that the air does not spread in the house, but probably, with the window, ventilation can take place. We tell them about cleaning of the device properly. I like to reserve alcohol for better use, so I tell them to use sodium hypochlorite, and then probably Krishna would agree with me about it. And then probably, and take care of the device. So far as possible, once the particular patient is out of that COVID problem, I tell them to discard all those accessories, all those nebulization set, etc. should be discarded. And I tell them to use the new set. I think this.
Yeah. These are the basic. So these are the basic things that we were doing also pre also pandemic, and also of course it should be also followed during the much more meticulously now here. So I think, Dr. Krishna, what are the challenges that you are just facing for prescribing this long-term maintenance therapy in this current scenario? So when you ask them to basically be there on this therapy nebulization for 2, 3, 4 months from now onwards, what are the challenges that you anticipate?
Yes. Now the question is regarding home nebulization, point number 1. Yes. So second point is, even if the person is COVID positive and is is on home nebulization. So there are 2 points I would like to elaborate here. First thing is home nebulization for a non-COVID patient who is regularly on. As Agam explained prior, whether it was a post-discharge for a shorter span or whether the patient is dependent on nebulizer since years. So if it's a known case of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease or bronchiectasis or any other lung illness for which is already on long-term nebulization, and basically the patient is at home nebulization, so the risk of that patient infecting others doesn't arrive as long as he is COVID negative. So home nebulization is basically safer because the target population where across the infection is going to spread across is confined. And at home, because there are different rooms, hall, or even a different place, they can like that, not isolation, they can take our daily for a particular room can be assigned to that patient, and wherein he can get nebulized daily. Now, what if he becomes COVID positive, who is already on long-term nebulization?
Long term.
As we all know that any COVID positive case, we are going to isolate him.
Correct.
So again, here that person will be in a single room and he will not be in contact with any of the family members. So no point of himself spreading the infection in being on home nebulization to the other family members, because he's in isolation. He's quarantined. Better word is isolated in a particular room which has got an attached bathroom at his house. So there comes no question of spreading the infection here also to the family household. Until unless he finishes his treatment span or 14 days, he will not be even touching the family members or even coming into their acquaintance or even going in their contact. Even the food, everything will be served at the doorstep. He has to open,
Yes.
take it. He's alone, all alone. So I don't
Yes, and
understand
even also
here
members
also.
when they visit, they should also wear the mask. So when they even come in
Exactly,
contact, even if they are just
exactly.
feeding them or giving them the food, the most important is that he would be wearing mask, and also the family member
Exactly.
whosoever
So
visits.
being
That's also one
COVID-19
important.
positive also, he
Yeah.
can continue to be under nebulization. As I said, because the COVID-19 himself has deserted him. So he's already deserted the COVID-19.
Yeah.
So no further deserting him.
And
Okay.
Dr. Neeraj, because thank you, Dr. Actually, I was Krishna was putting it so elaborately.
Thank
And
you.
Dr. Neeraj, we have been also instrumental in also putting this document. And do you think that we have got some also certain types of nebulizers or interface that can also mitigate this risk of transmission? Something interface that I had talked also briefly in the thing, and also type of nebulizers now that are available in the market. Neeraj, are you there?
Yes. So type
Yes.
of nebulizers, they actually do matter when it comes to bioaerosol or fugitive emissions from the nebulizers. The commonly used nebulizer is jet nebulizer. And we know that this is conventional nebulizer being used at a larger scale. And as far as literature is concerned, two-thirds of the discharge aerosol in ambient air are there when a patient uses jet nebulizer. So there is a greater risk of infection being spread to the surroundings or healthcare personnel in the hospital when we use jet nebulizers. Another nebulizer available with us is vibrating mesh nebulizer, which, as you said, it is preferred over jet nebulizer for nebulizing the patients because it has got certain inherent advantages with it. The mesh nebulizer, the medication reservoir actually is isolated from breathing circuit, so it eliminates nebulization of contaminated fluid drugs. Number one. Number two, it can stay in line when it is being used with ventilators. It can stay in line for as much as 28 days. So there is no need to break the circuit. And once you
Correct.
break the circuit, there is lesser chances of aerosol being dispersed in the surroundings, and the healthcare workers, they are at lesser risk of being contracting the infection from the patient. Then, of course, another advantage with mesh nebulizer is shorter nebulizing time as compared to jet nebulizer. So there is lesser risk of aerosol being dispersed from the nebulizer. So these are certain advantages with mesh nebulizer as compared to jet nebulizer. And another is breathe actuated nebulizer, where a patient, when inhales, then only the drug is being delivered into the mouth of the patient. And when patient exhales or when it is not being used, there is no dispersion of the aerosols from the nebulizer. So these are the three common type of nebulizers. And I would say that mesh nebulizer are preferred over jet nebulizer. And as you have already told, one should use filters at the expiratory port so that the emission of aerosols, bioaerosols or fugitive aerosols is much less as compared to the open mask nebulizer.
Yes. So basically, we have this availability of this nebulizer, although they are I think a bit costly, but they are available. and I think would be basically a purchase in this current scenario. So I would just come to Dr. Amita basically because in also start of pandemic, what we had done was, and what was proposed was to change these patients from they seem to also spacer with PMDI. So they were saying that you just stop nebulization and you can also safely give them PMDI with spacer. So in which cases you will actually consider giving PMDI with a spacer as alternative to this therapy of nebulization, Dr. Amita?
Yeah.
So can you? Yeah. So my question is that can you just convert all of them into PMDI spacer, or there are some challenges in that? Because we were just trying to do that at the start of pandemic, we were advised.
This is a very important question, and this is a problem that each of us have faced in the beginning. So luckily, we had COVID when the season was hot, and luckily we didn't have that many exacerbations of COPD and asthma. But the thing is that with rain starting, we did face this problem. So I'd like to address this problem for COVID negative patients and for COVID positive patients. So basically, for COVID negative patients, as we all have rightly said, that if the patients are on nebulizers, then we can continue nebulizers, and we don't need to change it to PMDI with spacers. However, if the patients are COVID positive, and if they need to be moved from nebulizer to PMDI, there are certain factors which are important, because they could be COVID positive patients could be in the hospital, and we all know they get secondary infections very commonly. So these patients could be having Pseudomonas infection, and we might be giving them nebulized colistin, nebulized tobramycin. And if the creatinine is abnormal, so if these patients need to be given nebulized drugs, then you can't change them to PMDI with spacer. So first of all, if we want to change the patients to PMDI with spacer, then they should be on drugs which are available with PMDI. That is very, very important. Then the second thing is that the patients, of course, with the spacer, we don't need that much of hand-mouth coordination, but still we need hand-eye coordination, because the patient should know that when the puff is being pressed, etc. So this coordination is important, and the patient should be preferably aware of the surrounding and conscious and cooperative to be able to change to this. That was it. And the third thing is that if the patient comes to casualty, breathless, and we don't know his COVID status, then we are a little scared to give bronchospasm. If the patient has severe bronchospasm, we are scared to give nebulizer. So then to these patients, we can actually give PMDI with spacer in the casualty, because studies have shown that 20 puffs of PMDI with
is
spacer
equal to
bronchodilator is equal to 1 bronchodilator nebulizer. So these are the three groups, which would be the answer to your question.
So can all non-COVID patient can then also continue to take this nebulization as before? So if it's not COVID, that is the point that we want to drive. In fact, but can all non-COVID patients? Yes, they can go ahead and.
Yes. So the patient is non-COVID. So the patient is in the hospital where RT-PCR is negative, the CT scan is not suggestive of anything. In the hospital also we can give. And if the patient is at home, then there is no problem of a COVID negative patient as far as the nebulization is going to be in his room, etc. So it's fine.
Yeah. So I would just come to some few innovative nebulizers that was actually mentioned in the past by then also Dr. Neeraj. So would it be basically helpful, Dr. Radha Munjya, are you there? Madam Munjya, can you just comment on this role of innovative nebulizers that has come, in fact, and I had seen some of them which are breath also triggered, and this would it be quite pertinent to use them now, or they are just what I call fancy nebulizers and they're just costly and you just simple this what precautions of filters will take care of these things?
See, everybody, that's a very good question, because everything depends on not the availability of the equipment or its utility also, even if it's proved, but whether your patient can afford to have these things with him. Because we are talking about two things at the same time. One is hospital-based treatment as well as patient taking treatment at home. And we may not be, at least we are not very lucky to have HEPA filters, as Amita was mentioning that they would use with the nebulizer. So the newer nebulizers which has come, especially the breath accentuated one, as well as the mesh nebulizers, even if they are costly, I think they are very useful in preventing the quantity of aerosol generated and thus preventing infection. See, what COVID has done is that it has made us aware about a phenomenon which already existed. It's not that because COVID has come, all of a sudden aerosols have started coming out. It was already there. We have seen that mist with our own eyes. So many times we have been standing beside the patient and
Yes.
coaxing the patient to take a deep breath and not to exhale very commonly and take a deep inhalation. And we have been standing beside the patient. COVID, in fact, we should be thankful that it has made us aware of so many things. And now, even if the patient is COVID negative, I'm sure any healthcare worker, including me, Rajesh or Amita and everybody, or you are all residents also, would never stand in line of the patient's breath as well as stand beside the patient if it is not needed. So I think coming back to the question which Rajesh asked, yes, even if the newer innovated nebulizers may be a little costly, I think we should get on with the newer ones like the mesh nebulizer or the breath accentuated one. And it has been shown that the breath accentuated one is very comfortable for the patient also to be used, you know, and it delivers the medications also in a better way.
Yeah, so we are actually
Rajesh, if I may
overestimating and overcautious about the risk of transmission through the nebulization.
Yes.
And of course, it is an AGP generated procedure. It's got low risk, and if we take precautions, I think that we can go ahead. Highest, Dr. Agam.
Yeah, what Madam was saying, I completely agree. But what I feel is we don't have enough evidence to suggest that these fancy nebulizers would really reduce the aerosol, probably transmission. I think we need better understanding before we recommend it, for a widespread use. Otherwise, I think I'm completely fine with existing nebulization, the best one, definitely. So far as we take proper precautions, and as probably we were slightly ignorant before COVID. COVID taught us many things. One thing is this, to take care of ourselves and our healthcare colleagues. I get your point. Yeah.
Can I also make a point, please?
Please. Yeah, sure, Amita.
Yes, I totally agree with Dr. Radha Munje, like that these may be good. And I agree with Agam also that we don't have enough evidence. What I personally feel is that usually patients of COPD and asthma on regular long-term nebulizers only if they've got severe or very severe disease. Otherwise, people who got moderate disease are not really on home nebulizations. So since these people have very poor lung function, I would recommend that these people actually just remain at home and don't really go out. That's number one. Secondly, I would also recommend that those people of house who are going out should definitely keep a distance of 6 feet, that is 2 meters from these people, so that they don't get infected. So if these kind of precautions are being taken to prevent any infection in these people, then the same nebulizations could be continued at home.
Yes.
And we don't need to buy new ones.
See, basically, there is no need for the patient to change over from the existing nebulization device or his own nebulizers to go and buy something fancy.
Yes, but
given a choice, if patient
they can
has
afford.
afford, and you know that the patient is positive,
Yes.
especially COVID positive, or even if it is any other infection, because these patients are responsible for all hospital acquired infections in other patients also, whether it's IU or ICU or even a general ward where I see the patients. So given a choice, we should prefer those rather than estimating how much is actually the risk. We should go in for something which really assures that there is less bioaerosol generation.
Yeah.
Maybe, COVID suspect ICU, something like that, where breathless patient goes in and we don't know the report where,
Yes.
these measures may be useful over here.
Or like a triage area where the patient stays for 6 to 8 hours if rapid antigen is negative and we wait for RT-PCR. These are the areas which are actually more tricky because you are not aware about the patient status.
Yeah, true. So I think we're just overshooting our time, and I'm not able to see question answer panel in fact now. So if I think Dr. Meena can help me, because I was logged in from my mobile device, there is some problem in my PC. So if there's no question, then I can ask all the panelists to have I think 2 or 3 line message about the use of nebulization.
Yeah, Rajesh, I would like to speak. Anybody from Cipla is hearing us? Hearing me now? Dr. Krishna here.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
This is very unfair. You have supplied snacks to only Agam Vora and none of us here. Agam is eating snacks. Cipla has already spoiled our Saturday evening with no party. And see, the people from Nagpur, who are having Haldiram with them, they are also not eating snacks.
No,
Only to Agam.
because probably the Zomato and Swiggy are great fans of Agam, and
Yes.
they go running to his place, and nobody comes on our doorstep.
Yeah. So let's I think wrap up the things before really toast for everybody about nebulization. If you can just give 2 or 3 lines of a message about this practice of nebulization in this.
Rajesh, may I continue?
Yeah. I would start with Krishna. Yeah.
So actually, see this during the current pandemic, if you consider it as a challenge for prescribing long-term maintenance therapy, it's a challenge. It's how you look at the problem. So when you look at a problem, you can look at it in 2 ways. Either it's problematic or it's a boon. So I would suggest that this is actually positive. During the current pandemic, prescribing long-term nebulization at home to a patient is wiser, because we will ask him not to visit via prescribing for long term, not to visit the OPD frequently. This is a boon to him. So he could be for a longer span at home, taking the nebulization for a longer duration. He will refrain himself visiting to the doctor's cabin with acute attacks. He will be refraining himself with the transmission of infection when he is exposed at a OPD.
Correct.
So this could be taken positively, I believe. That's my view.
Yeah, and also teaching him also what we call PMDI with spacer would not be as possible when he's at home. So he has to come, and then all those technique has to be all the full. We got video consultation, but still that would be actually a challenging thing to do. Yes, Dr. Agam, your 2 pointed messages.
It reminds me of what Churchill said during World War II. He said,
invoking Winston Churchill in nebulization, that only Agam can do.
He made a statement that never let probably any such big calamity go waste. It always is a lesson to learn. And probably what Dr. Munjay said, probably we were quite ignorant about aerosol transmission. And I think it is a time God gave us opportunity to learn about it and take care of ourselves. At the same time, I also would want to tell you that don't deprive your COPD patients or your obstructive airway disease patients of the needed nebulization therapy. All those patients who are borderline, who can be managed on MDIs with spacer or other aerosol delivery systems can be managed on that. But all those patients who require nebulization cannot be deprived for the fear of. We are supposed to take due care. We will take due care. But we should offer them this aerosol therapy. That's my message. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Amita?
I completely agree. I just feel that actually the thing is that with COVID, every passing day, we are learning more and more. And we have to understand that what we were told earlier actually was without any trials, without any experience. It was
just a fear.
Yeah, it was a fear, and it was like an estimated, calculated assumption, which always need not be true. So we were told that nebulizations are to be avoided, they are dangerous, and a lot of patients actually got deprived of good lung care. And we, being leading chest physicians, we have to make sure that we actually wipe out this myth, and we offer the best to our patients, because actually nebulizations are safe and we should not be scared of it, and we should definitely not deprive our needing patients of this wonderful feeling of being able to breathe comfortably. Without
well said, Amita, because that is of course a very good thing for them, and patients need this important therapy. Dr. Neeraj, what are your thoughts? What are your just concluding message for the audience?
Yes, we as far as nebulization is concerned, we are quite comfortable for COVID negative patients who are on home nebulization, no doubt. We observe all the preventive steps uniformly, universally when we are dealing with a COVID positive patient. But as Dr. Radha has said, COVID suspect area is a tricky area. So we have to consider all patients present in the COVID suspect area as COVID positive. We need not to deprive them what they actually require at that point of care, but we should also observe all and follow all the preventive steps so as to prevent the spread of infection in that particular area.
Professor Munjay, your thoughts?
Yes,
concluding
I
remarks.
would like to summarize that what has happened in the olden ages is that Gita was told by Krishna and then it was written. right? Here what has happened is Rajesh, Neeraj and his team has first written the guidance document, and now it is being retold by Dr. Krishna in the CCI platform.
So history has turned
Very
around.
well said.
Too much.
But then it's a very important message because it has to go out. The document is ready, it has been printed, but it has to be re-endorsed. You know, the fears don't go away. Like if we say COVID is treatable and it's a mild disease, the fear doesn't go. So is the case with the fear of nebulization and transmission of disease. So you have to tell it again and again and endorse it again and again, saying that the risk is, though there is a risk, it's the minimal risk, and with due care taken, the risk of transmission of disease is less. And as it is, we would have few number of COVID cases, and now we are getting more and more of non-COVID cases also because they are coming back, which did not happen in the first 3 or 6 months. So you are getting your routine cases of COPD, asthma, bronchiectasis, and ILDs who need nebulization at one point. So I think these patients should not be deprived of a proper lung care, as Amita said, and let them breathe with their lungs full and happily. And let us take on what we have been doing earlier in nebulization with, of course, all due care which has been told. Thank you.
True. Yeah. So I think a good care, and also we got, also I got what I call robust evidences which are there in this article at the end of it, from which this document was made. So you can go and also download it basically from our site of Lung India. Thank you, all of you. In fact, for this, we are now overshooting time, and over to, I think, Meena for the remarks. Thank you, audience, and thank you, all of you. If we just stay, I think, longer, Agam will also show his also wine glass. So let's
before you hand it over
which is
to
hiding,
I must thank you, Rajesh, for conducting it so well. You've touched upon every important point that all delegates and all participants must know. You did it extremely well. I must thank Krishna for taking up this particular topic in CCI, and when CCI takes it, it's going to be a big success, no doubt. So Krishna, cheers for that. Thanks Neeraj bhai, thanks madam, thanks Amita for being there and making it so lively and interesting, and of course thank Cipla for giving us the platform for discussion. Thank you.
We too thank Cipla, and we thank Dr. Krishna for really bringing up this topic for all CCI members as well as other people who have logged in.
Oh yes, thanks to
and Rajesh,
CCI
that was
Krishna.
a wonderful presentation. Thank you,
ma'am. You have been always appreciative of a student like me. So I'm also still just getting a blessings of you as my teacher. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Krishna. Thanks, Dr. Rajesh. Thanks, Dr. Munje, Dr. Agam, and Dr. Nene. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr.
हम तो अंत में बोलेंगे.
Amita, Agam and Neeraj have always been very good colleagues. So thank you.
Over to Meena. Meena is there.
Amita wants to speak something.
Okay, Amita. Okay.
Yeah, I just like to thank Dr. Krishna for taking this wonderful initiative and for doing this wonderful webinar for CCI. Dr. Rajesh for excellent talk. I learned so much from it in excellent moderation. Dr. Neeraj Gupta for being the first author of this beautiful guideline that has been written. We've learned so much. Dr. Radha Munje always for wonderful words of wisdom. We always learn things from her. With a smiling face, she gives us so much knowledge. Dr. Agam for always adding wonderful points with a great sense of humor. Always brings a smile to our face. And Dr. Meena for conducting the entire thing so well, and Team Cipla for always supporting us. And most importantly, all our CCI friends, members and audience for being here in huge numbers and for always supporting us. A huge thanks to
CCI
family.
Thank you, CCI.
के बारे में तो I don't know wine छलकाता है कि नहीं, लेकिन humor तो हर जगह छलकाता ही है वो जहाँ
जाता है. So he is and that's why he's also busy. I mean, as a speaker in all, I think, webinars. So I really appreciate his, sense of humor as well as just putting the topic so well. Over to you, Meena.
Yeah, one second. Myself. I would like to thank everyone. Swarnakar bhai, it was a fantastic presentation. And Neeraj bhai, I thank you that I even congratulate that you were a part of making this guidance. Thank you so much. And you were a part of, in 3 days, you played 2 matches for CCI. Day before yesterday, you were there in our ILD masterclass. And now today you are here.
Virat Kohli.
Of course.
Centuries in both, fantastic orator and great.
Yes. And
Yes, yes,
he is the most silent and dedicated worker. I've always observed
yes,
on the
yes,
Neeraj.
yes,
Very
yes.
humble.
That
Very,
he
very
would do,
sincere, honest. Yeah,
Very
yeah.
humble,
he would
very humble.
do his job 100%
Very modest.
and very
I
silent.
think
Yes.
I think
And
this is
and Dr. Radha Munje, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being
Thank you,
here.
ma'am.
Whenever CCA needed you, you are always there. अगम के
Yes.
बारे में क्या बोलूं, अगम भाई है मेरा, और अगम को छोड़ के कुछ भी करो तो उसमें मसाला नहीं निकलता है, मतलब you don't get the essence. So Agam should be there as a main, like he's a quite important ingredient to any of our webinars. He
True.
makes a difference. And Rajesh bhai, thank you from the bottom of my heart that you are here, and let us continue Indian Chess Society and Chess Council of India. Let we continue like this as brothers, the way we are brothers, Rajesh. And
Yes.
Amita, thank you so much. Bringing Amita is like adding beauty to the brains always to any event. Okay, so thank you so much, and thank you Cipla in particular, in special. And I am very sure after ICS, even now the CCA regarding this nebulization guidance. Now the reach of ICS is very huge. The CCA's reach is very huge. I'm very sure, and I assure this to Cipla, that the myths regarding the nebulization will be over, and again, apna time aayega nebulization.
Correct.
Okay. Over to you, Dr. Meena.
Okay, thank you. On behalf of CIPLA, I would like to sincerely thank the Chess Council of India and Dr. Krishna for having partnered with CIPLA in this unique initiative of disseminating the right information on nebulization during the COVID pandemic. I also thank Dr. Swarnakar for his truly excellent and very, very lucid talk on the key aspects of the guidance on nebulization, and for having moderated the panel discussion so very beautifully. My heartfelt gratitude also to all the panelists, Dr. Radha Munje, Dr. Neeraj Gupta, Dr. Amita Nene, and Dr. Agam Vora for the very stimulating discussion and for throwing light on the burning issues on nebulization during the pandemic. And finally, I thank the audience for having taken time out of their busy schedules and joining us today on a Saturday evening. Thank you all once again.
Thank you.
An appeal to all the CCI family. I just want to tell the CCI family that we've got Indian Chess Society elections, and I'm standing for the post of governing body member, and I'm requesting each and every CCI person to please vote for me for the post of governing body member of ICS. Thank you.
All the best.
Thank
All the best, Amita.
all the best, Amita.
All the best.
Thank you.
Bye bye. See you.
Bye.
See you all soon.
Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.
Thank you.